Hello, dear listeners and viewers, to another instalment of our Community Power podcasts with the ever impressive Chris Hall. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Steve.
How you doing? We'll get straight into it. Thank you for coming today. Could you tell us a bit about your background and career?
I went to university back in the 1980s, 1983 to 86. Had a wonderful time and did a lot at university radio, URB, University Radio Bail Rig.
Right.
So thoroughly enjoyed that. And then having got a BA combined honours in politics, sociology and history, a natural career doesn't automatically follow.
No.
So I was going to possibly do media, although that wasn't so well paid. And ultimately I got an opportunity working in the law courts back in Essex.
Right.
And I worked in the magistrates courts on the admin side. But they gave me an opportunity, said, did you want to develop a career in legal? And I thought, that sounds interesting. And I was able to qualify through the next decade, get a degree in law at Nottingham Trent University, and then I completed the legal practice course in 1999. So in that decade I qualified as a solicitor.
Right.
And then in this decade, or the noughties, I undertook the role of a legal advisor in the magistrates courts. So I've worked in the magistrates courts from start to finish. I retired in 2023, and through that time I've worked in Essex, Suffolk at Lowestoft, and it seems like it was coastal resorts. In Essex it was Southend for a while,
Right.
and then in North Wales it was Prestatyn, and then I edged toward Mould, and then settled more at Wrexham. But they would have me work across North Wales. So we'd do courts also, magistrates courts in Llandudno and down to Welshpool. So covered good terrain, very interesting job being a legal advisor in the magistrates courts, trying to support the magistrates, deal with defendants, prosecution and solicitors. So I'm like the referee in the middle.
Okay, sounds fun. It's slightly stressful, but fun.
It's a lively job, very enjoyable. I think in later years, I have to be honest, and that's why probably I'm a lively critical campaigner. I think it was public service that's been underfunded.
Right.
I think criminal justice generally has been underfunded. Okay. So since 2010, there's been a real struggle with our public services, and what you find is there's this big backlog of cases in the magistrates and in the Crown Court, and that's quite a serious implication for the way in which we deal with justice.
Okay.
If you consider victims waiting for justice, and you consider witnesses trying to remember cases,
right.
It's really quite important that justice has got to... justice delayed is justice denied. And so you sense that I have a feeling about being fair, and hence why I feel I've been a legal advisor and a referee trying to just ensure fair play.
Okay. I suppose that leads nicely on potentially into my next question. How did that work translate into your involvement with TCC?
Well, it ideally did translate because I believe in fair play, and I came through the idea of fair trade as an active member of the cooperative group, and therefore we joined the campaign in Wrexham with TCC to campaign for fair trade status for Wrexham. A lot of towns a couple of decades ago were trying to get fair trade status, and if you remember back in 2009, a lot of towns in Wales did achieve fair trade status, so that Wales became the first, or was it the second nation? It's Wales and Scotland became the two entire nations that achieved fair trade nation status. Probably 400 or more towns in the UK have achieved fair trade status. And we campaigned back in 2009 with Chris Pillsbury, who was I think then the chair
I think so.
of TCC, and I was there to represent the cooperative group. We would be working with schools and the retail shops, various other outlets to see who would be willing to sell any fair trade products.
Okay. Because that's seen as one of TCC's, I suppose, campaign highlights, because it was such a collaborative effort between so many different organisations, and it's still kind of spoken about now. So okay.
It takes a lot of skill to pull a lot of organisations together,
Yeah.
and that's where perhaps the role of TCC is quite useful.
Yeah. Okay. Could you tell our audience what you've mentioned these sorts of things already? Your core beliefs and values, and how that's applied to your work and your ongoing efforts.
Yeah. What I'll try and do is perhaps relate some of the core beliefs to some of the campaigns.
Yeah.
Firstly, I believe very much in fair play and equality of opportunity, and I see that that means very often that you've got to be a bit of an advocate, and you've got to give a voice to people who don't ordinarily have a voice or an opportunity to speak, or indeed who simply don't understand or appreciate how a system operates.
Yeah.
How do I campaign? How do I get through this? And so a person like myself who's had opportunities, I consider myself a person who's always burst through the door, and then I like to keep the door open for others so that they can come through. Just taking a good example, I believe very strongly in co-production, which means that I don't tell you what we're going to do, we discuss what we're going to do, and then hopefully we can agree a way forward, which is then good campaigning, because we are acting in solidarity and collective, and obviously not just you and me, but a larger group of people can really then make a difference.
Yeah.
My belief in co-production, therefore, has particularly been strong with a local resident called Nathan Davis. He's disabled, he's got Friedrich's ataxia, which attacks the nervous system, and he's in a wheelchair as a result, but he's got a really sharp mind, and he wants to be given full respect and care and treatment, and he has difficulties with the Wrexham Council Social Services Department, who don't understand that disabled people are individuals, and you need to provide a bespoke service. You can't just say this one size fits all.
Yeah.
And so he has to campaign and argue with them, and I try to provide an advocacy, support service, advice and guidance to assist Nathan, who has got a lot of good thoughts and ideas, not just for himself, but for disabled people who are considering access and opportunity. So that's one campaign. Another one I'm very strongly passionate about is climate justice.
Okay.
So I've campaigned now for many years with Oxfam, probably since about 2000. I'd end up going to Glastonbury as an Oxfam volunteer.
Right.
Initially as a steward, but then I could see what Oxfam were doing, just sort of providing that service. They were able then, paid by the festival goers, to give them funds in order to carry on with their campaigning.
Okay.
And then I transferred across from stewards to become a campaigner, so I was therefore again more of a vocal advocate. And what we do each year, we'll go to a couple of festivals. I'll go to Glastonbury and Latitude Festival, Latitude in Suffolk.
Oh, yeah.
But whilst we can enjoy the music in the evening, by day we'll campaign from 10 o'clock till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and meet people, talk to them about the climate and the latest campaign from Oxfam. And again, it's a recognition that perhaps the Northern Hemisphere, who creates so much of the problems with carbon, but the Southern Hemisphere are the ones who are the recipients of the problems caused by carbon production.
Okay. That ends my grilling of you. Do you have any kind of words of advice or encouragement for people looking to get into organising or advocacy work?
Well, firstly, I think it's got to come from the heart and the head.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be passionate about your campaign. If you're not passionate about it, you may well communicate to others, I'm not particularly keen or bothered.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some real keenness in there, enthusiasm. I think also then you've got to apply the head and think, what am I trying to achieve? Set my goals, be ambitious, but also understand that I've got to be realistic. I can't change the world in a day. But then also, for me, it's always been the case, I'm a marathon runner, And I believe politics is very much a marathon, not a sprint. Campaigning is a marathon, not a sprint. We don't resolve things in a day. And I also believe in solidarity and sort of working together. You've got to take people with you, and listening isn't a bad skill as well.
Sage advice. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.